Hi again, everybody. In this video, I'd like to have a heart-to-heart talk with you about the kind of society we've become and how we are going to go forward as a community, as a people. And wherever you are in your home watching this video, in your living room, on your bed, or eating your dinner, I hope you'll spend the next few minutes listening to what I'm about to tell you. And not just hearing with your ears, but really listening with your heart. Now, I'd like to start with what Mr. Chan Chun-sing said recently when in a closed-door meeting, he trashed Hong Kong about its handling of the mask issue. Now listen to this.
If we issue surgical masks and give everybody surgical masks just to make them feel shook, because they say Carrie Lam wear mask, right, at the conference, right? Everybody must wear mask, right? Today you see newspaper? What is happening to Hong Kong now? What did South China Morning Post just report about Hong Kong? They are down to less than 1 month's supply of masks for their medical people. If we have done what we have done, like Hong Kong, without thinking, and ask Carrie Lam, if PM, myself, Lawrence Wong, Gan Kim Yong go to press conference, everybody wear a mask. Today, everybody panic. I can guarantee you, today, our hospital system will have broken down.
Now, how things have changed in a matter of weeks. Mr. Chan's words backfired spectacularly as the number of infections in Singapore shot past Hong Kong's because we were not putting on masks and the government made some crucial missteps. He thought his party had conquered the COVID-19 spread. He started to talk big, 讲大话。有一位讲师 Donald Low 说我们不应该这么好练 cakap besar. Mr. Chan's words and his attitude are emblematic of the PAP's younger generation of ministers. They seem to be full of themselves, and their misplaced sense of superiority has engendered arrogance that is taking Singapore down a dangerous road. It is this kind of attitude that led Mr. Goh Chok Tong to say that at more than $100,000 a month, the ministers are not paid enough. He even recounted how his compatriot Edwin Tong said that in becoming a junior minister, his income had been reduced to $50,000 and that he still had a house to pay and a family including parents and in-laws to feed. You heard that right, $50,000 a month, and he was still lamenting about his salary. This is how far removed the ministers are from common folk like you and me. Now, unabashedly, the ministers keep referring to their own leadership as exceptional. It took the coronavirus to expose this boast. As of the recording of this video, we have the highest number of infections in Southeast Asia and one of the highest in the region. This crisis has shown the PAP's leadership to be very ordinary indeed. For now, however, I want to focus on this PAP mindset, a mindset which has been imposed on our society and made it a very exploitative, bullying, and even brutish one. How else can you explain the fact that while ministers pay themselves such huge amounts but refuse to enact a minimum wage law? It is also this mindset that suppresses the wages of our workers. Foreign workers, including PMETs, are imported in staggeringly large numbers. Now, to give you an idea of how many foreigners we have here, nearly 40% of our 5.7 million population is not Singaporean, and many of them are PMETs, competing with Singaporeans on who can stomach lower wages. It is a race to the bottom. And the Prime Minister even tells us that if we keep talking about work-life balance, the Vietnamese, Indians, and Chinese will steal our lunch. The message? Work harder, work longer, work cheaper. It is also this mindset that forces our elderly to continue working past their retirement age. Now listen to this shocking piece of news straight from the horse's mouth. The increase in employment rate of Singapore citizens over the last decade was driven most consistently by those aged 65 and over. But the minute you advocate more spending for the poor and the elderly, ministers like Vivian Balakrishnan will scold you. How much do you want? Do you want 3 meals in a hawker center, food court, or restaurant? Now, he also waxed hyperbolic when the SDP proposed minimum wage and increased social spending, saying, the SDP will set us on the road to Greece, and it is the duty of my team to awaken Singaporeans to the dangers of such policy prescriptions. But when the PAP bills jewel Changi for $18 billion, and goodness knows how much more for the Founders Memorial, it's money well spent. And then there was the report by the online Citizen that a few of the dormitories that housed our foreign workers in dismal conditions and now centers of COVID-19 infections were run by businessmen who were grassroots leaders with the People's Association. The TOC also reported that the wife of one of these businessmen had showcased their weekend party house at Sentosa Cove, which sits on a, now wait for it, $9,000 per square foot plot of land. To give you an idea of how much this is, a typical 4-room BTO flat at this price would cost nearly $9 million. She described in detail how she furnished her home with exquisite furnishings, even turning one of the rooms into a winter haven where the cold blast from aircon creates an icy feeling and complemented by a fireplace. The stair to the basement is meant to be like a runway where guests can sashay and strut their stuff. And for dinner, there is a 22-seat custom-made table with bronze legs and a high-gloss finish, and so on and so on. Now contrast this with these foreign workers who sleep on wooden boards and live in dorms operated by some of these business people. Is one life worth that much and another that little? And what about our own elderly and poor? This is the face of a society of bullies and brutes, not a society of compassion and conscience. What have we become, my friends? Is there no sense of right and wrong anymore? Or is the sky the limit for the rich, and for the poor there's no bottom? Is there no sense of justice anymore? No conscience, no shame, no common decency? Or must everything, like the misery of our foreign workers, be exploited for the sake of profit? My fellow Singaporeans, we worship at the altar of mammon, and I tell you that no good will come of this. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand. In an imperfect world, there can be no perfect equality. Society will always have the rich and poor. And like everyone else, I too want to get ahead and make progress in my life, enjoy material comfort and financial security. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't want to do this standing on someone else's back. If the COVID crisis has taught us anything, it is that we are all in the same boat. And if we are all in the same boat, then the wealthy and the ruling class cannot continue to exploit the rest of society. When we take care of each other, when we advocate for higher wages for our neighbor who works as a cleaner, a bus driver, or a salesperson, we are taking care of ourselves and of our own future, because going forward, our futures are all intertwined. Compassion in Singapore has become a dirty word. It's been made into a dirty word by the PAP. It's been hammered into our minds that if we practice compassion, our economy will become bankrupt like Greece, and so we must always think of stealing someone else's lunch. But I'm here to tell you that this is untrue. I'm here to tell you quite the opposite, that if we continue listening to the PAP and exploiting the weak and poor in society, we will assuredly become bankrupt, morally and socially bankrupt. And this will tear society apart and ultimately ruin our economy. I want to make sense to you. I want to appeal to your sense of decency. We are better than this. I want to articulate a new way of doing things, to tell you that there is a better way to run our society, where we have a government that is compassionate and humble enough to see that power is a privilege that must be earned and not an entitlement that must be preserved through manipulation and intimidation. One that doesn't keep thinking that it is exceptional and trashing other government leaders. One where ministers don't pay themselves million-dollar salaries while denying our low-income workers minimum wage. One where the wealthy own multi-million-dollar homes while our poor barely make it in life. And one where we stop striving to attract billionaires, but rather work to make our society one with the world's happiest people. My colleagues and I and the SDP invite you to come and build this vision with us. These are values that matter. A society without values is a society devoid of humanity, and a society without humanity is one too frightening to contemplate, and worse, one that will not last. Now, I've spent my whole life fighting for these values. And if I had another life, I'd spend it doing the same, because I don't want to live in a society that has no soul. I want to live in a society where values matter, where people matter. And can we envision such an alternative? Can we conceive of such a society? Of course we can. But we need to have the courage to care, the courage to listen to the nature of our better angels. I have never stopped believing in Singapore, in you, my fellow Singaporeans. We must aspire to a bigger and better nation. I hope that as you're at home in this lockdown, you'll think about what I said and come and join me and my colleagues to help make this vision a reality. I'll talk to you again soon.